Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dog Training Games for Focus. My name is Lisa. Just a little quick introduction before we get started. So I'm a certified professional dog trainer. I've been training for about 6 years now, and I am leading this fun little free workshop today. So I just wanted to go over a few things. So first, I'm going to talk a little bit about, basically it's going to be a presentation on what we're doing, and then I will show a demo, and then you can have a moment to practice with your pup. Now, if you're watching the replay, what you can do instead is just pause the video, practice with your dog or puppy, and then just let me know any questions you may have in the comments below this video. So, as mentioned, today is going to be interactive. So I encourage you, if it goes to the next slide, okay, to grab your dog, put them on leash just so that you have more control over them, because otherwise they can go to the other side of the house, go sniff, like do other things and not really focus on training. And I encourage you to have your treats and clickers. So if you don't have those with you, go ahead and grab those now. You may also, for exercise 3, we're going to do a little bit of distraction work. So that's where you may want to grab like a squeaky toy or something that's mildly distracting. We don't want to do anything too intense. So grab those if you don't have them already. And the reason why focus is so important, so there's a few reasons, but I want you to start kind of thinking on your own right now why you think that focus might be important before I kind of give you my reasons. There are a lot of reasons, but I'm going to give you 3 main reasons. So kind of start to think about that. Okay, so the reason why I say focus is so important is, number 1, so that you can give your pup directions on what to do next. So if they, sorry, let me move this so you can see. Perfect. Okay, so yes, so you can give your pup directions on what to do next. So if they're not looking at you, then it's pretty hard to kind of give them directions. Now, of course, there are training like games that you can do where they're not looking at you and you can kind of work on that. But as a foundation, it is really important to have that focus. Also, it's a prerequisite to many basic cues like loose leash walking. So with loose leash walking, we are teaching our pups to walk at a snail's pace. So really, really slow. They walk much faster than us. So if they aren't focused on us, even if they're not staring at us, if they aren't, checking in with us and seeing where we are, then it's going to be really hard to teach that loose leash. Same with off leash work. So if your pup is off leash, if they're just focused on where they're going next, they're probably going to run way far ahead of you versus, let's say, if they're checking in. So that's why focus is so important too, is we want our dogs to check in with us. And it is also a very easy thing to teach as well, which I didn't include on here, but it's an easy thing to teach. So if you're struggling to train more complicated things, like even a lay down can be more complicated. So this will teach your pup to really enjoy training because it's going to be basic. It's not going to confuse them. It's not going to make them frustrated. It keeps it really, really basic so that your pup and you have that reinforcement history to really continue to want to train. And of course, it's important to think of us, the humans, as well, because we're the ones that also have to be motivated to train. So a lot of these exercises are just really simple and helps both of us, dog and handler, to enjoy and be reinforced for training without making it really complicated. And then from there, once you've built that relationship and that reinforcement history, it's going to be a lot easier to train more complicated things. Oh, and then last but not least, of course, it's an incompatible behavior. So for a lot of annoying behaviors, like for example, if your dog wants to pull towards another dog on leash, you can ask to redirect to you. So you would say your focus cue, whether it's their name, look at me, whatever, and the second they look back at you, click and reward, and then they're no longer pulling towards that other dog. Now, of course, there are a lot of layers to teaching this. I'll talk more about distance, duration, distraction later, which all make a cue harder or easier. But we need to teach them first just how to focus, right? Before we can even add in other dogs and things like that. So let's go to the next one. Okay. So another thing I do want to mention is that there are 2 types of focus that we can train. So number 1 is putting a focus behavior on cue. So for example, look at me, watch, or their name. And that is the cue for them to look at you. Number 2 is default attention behavior, which is just a fancy word for them to check in on their own in a lot of varying distracting situations. So today we are going to focus more on the default attention behavior versus putting it on cue. And I love teaching default attention behavior because once again, it's going to help you build that relationship with your dog or puppy so that you're really able to train more complicated things and they're more willing to look to you for direction. So next slide. Okay, so we're going to get into the fun games now. So game 1 is, all of these games are really, really easy, but I don't want you to get stuck on the fact that they're really easy and simple because, like I said, we do need to build that really strong foundation, that reinforcement history to build off of for more complicated things. And the more and more you practice simple, easy to understand things, the more confidence it's going to build for you and your dog or puppy. So game 1, and I'll show you a demo in just a moment, so don't worry. So I'm just going to talk through it first, show you the demo. So game 1 is to reward for looking. So all you're going to do is drop a treat by your feet, and it can be their kibble as well. The second they stop chewing that food and they look back at you, you're going to mark that behavior with either a click or a verbal marker. And then from there, you're going to drop another treat. So unlike usually where we deliver a treat from our hand, we're actually just dropping it to the ground. And so what this teaches our dogs and puppies is that while they're eating, the second they're done eating, looking at the floor, they get rewarded for looking back at you. So it's teaching that default attention behavior. And I want to emphasize we are not saying anything. We're just waiting for them to look at us. Okay. So I am going to switch to the video. So you'll see I drop the treat and then I wait. The second he looks, I clicked and then I drop another treat by my feet. And it's going to be tempting to try to say something, but you see I wait for him to look at me. And with your dog or puppy, it might take a little bit longer. Dodger's already been doing more of these kinds of exercises and he's still kind of taking a long time. So just keep that in mind that that it might take a little bit longer with your dog or puppy. So the first few times you may have to wait a little bit. And that's why I encourage you to have your dog on leash so that when you're doing this, they can't just wander off and do something else. Because then obviously they're not going to really look at you because they're going to be like, oh, let me play with this toy or whatever. And I didn't have Dodger on leash in that one. I should have, but I've done a lot of training with Dodger, so he's pretty good at staying where he is. So just keep that in mind. I remembered for the second and third video to put him on leash, but if this is your very first time doing it, I really encourage you to put them on leash. Okay, so if you're watching the replay, you can pause right now because I'm going to move on to game number 2. If it goes. Okay, there we go. Okay, so game number 2 is learning to come back to you. So even if they're sniffing from a little bit further away, you're going to toss the treat, and then we want to wait for them to come back to you. If this isn't just working for you at all, then you can work on game number 1 a little bit more, so you've built a little bit more of that reinforcement history, or maybe not toss the treat as far. Once again, this is really teaching our dogs and puppies when they're sniffing a few feet away from us, if they come back to us when called, we're not calling them, so we're not saying anything, but we're teaching them to want to come back to us without saying anything. So let me show you that video. So I'm going to go back to my video screen. And sorry, this is video 1. So I'm going to play video 2 for exercise number 2. All right, so I have him on leash, and I'm tossing it just a few feet away. I'm not saying anything. And then I click for him looking at me, and then I toss the treat. And so the key here that I think we often forget is that we are not giving them the treat from my hand. So we click and then the treat gets tossed. Now this does require a little bit of practice if you haven't done this before, because 2 to 3 feet away, I mean, that's kind of hard, right? Especially if you have like bouncy treats. So if you have any flat treats, that'll make it easier so they don't bounce super far away. Or if you're using like kibble, just like lean down and kind of like gently toss it so it doesn't fly like 10 feet away, because remember, you have them on leash, so then they're going to drag you towards that treat. And so once again, the key here is not saying anything and waiting for them to come back to you. Like I said, if they don't come back, try game 1 again until you have a little bit more of that reinforcement history, and then slowly work your way towards tossing the treats further and further away. So if you're watching the replay, pause, practice with your dog or puppy, and then come back for game number 3. Alrighty, so game number 3 is the engage, disengage game. So we're gonna start adding mild distractions. So what you're gonna do is, number 1, make a noise that won't scare them, but won't get them too excited. And you're not gonna make the noise like yourself, because we don't want them looking at us. We want them kind of looking slightly away. So you'll see in the video, I'll have a little squeaky toy that I put, like I hold my arm out so that they look at it, and then I wait for them to redirect from that squeaky toy to me, and then I click reward. And this one I am actually rewarding like to their face. So I'm just like giving them the treat because it's more about engaging to that squeaky toy and then looking at me. Now, we don't want to squeak super loud because we don't want it to be so crazy that they start jumping. So if even just picking up the toy is already distracting for your dog, then you can just do that. If waving your arm, if you have a really young puppy, like an 8-week-old puppy, even just putting your arm out might already be a huge distraction. So play around with that distraction with your dog or puppy. Don't make it too challenging, or else you're going to be waiting like an hour for them to look back at you. And I don't think any of us have that much patience. I don't. So make it really, really easy for them. So like I mentioned, number 2, you're going to wait for them to look back at you. And then number 3, you're going to mark and reward when they look back at you. So going back to the video screen, I'm going to switch it to video 3, exercise number 3. So I have this little squeaky toy. And you couldn't really hear that much in the video, but I squeaked it lightly. I did it a little bit louder. So good. Okay, so you can see Dodger was pretty good at redirecting, but like I said, we don't want to, make it super, super crazy, right? Like we want to keep it simple. I know Dodger can handle that squeaky noise a little bit louder, but for your dog or puppy, if you've never done this before, like I said, maybe you just get out the toy, maybe you just wave your arm, do something that they can actually handle. So if you're wondering, well, where do I go from here? How does this apply, in the real world? So this is essentially the very, very first step to getting your dog to disengage from anything. So I always talk, if you watch my videos, I talk about the 3 Ds in dog training: distance, duration, distraction. These all make a cue easier or harder. So this is a very low distraction. We are inside the house. It's pretty quiet. There's no random guests coming in when I'm practicing. So this would be like level 1. And then you can slowly work your way up to level 2, level 3, and slowly but gradually make it harder and harder. So maybe you first practice in your backyard for level 2. where they learn to redirect to you outside, but it's in your yard, so it's a familiar place. You're not going to just randomly go to a really crowded dog park and then expect your dog to do this, right? You need to work up to more challenging situations, or even a hike. Like, that's way more challenging than your backyard. So slowly increase your distraction so that they are eventually able to engage and disengage from more distracting things. And this will really help too, like with reactivity as well, especially if your dog, barks and lunges at other dogs. Once again, playing that engage, disengage game, but from a very far distance so that they can handle it. So you're not going right next to a dog and waiting for them to handle it, going further away, and basically working through that engage, disengage game. All right, so I do want to mention, so I'm also hosting a live group class. So if you want to work on this more, if you want direct feedback, so it's going to be live, so via Zoom. So I'll see you on screen, all of that. I am hosting that this Sunday, February 28th at 3:30 p.m. Mountain Time. So that's 2:30 Pacific Time, 5:30 Eastern Time. And I'll move my face here again so you can see, you would basically be practicing with your dog while getting lectured on how to do these things, and then you would get feedback. So this is really helpful for those where maybe you're practicing on your own and you're not sure what you're doing right or incorrect. Maybe your timing is off. You'll get all of that feedback. And of course, I won't be harsh. Like, it's not scary, right? Like, I'm going to give you helpful feedback because I know some people are scared to go on camera. That's okay. Also, you could technically attend this without being on camera as well. So you could just practice without your camera on if that makes you more nervous. And of course, if you wanted to send a quick video to me directly, that's totally okay as well. Because I understand not everyone is super comfortable being on camera. So what we're going to cover in the Advancing Focus workshop is I'll give you some pre-work. So I have a section from my Perfect Pup program called Training 101, or it's like the basics of training. And so you'll get just that foundational piece so that you really understand how to use a verbal marker or a clicker, whichever one you're using. I talk about how to properly deliver a treat so that your pup doesn't bite your hand off and you're not getting them out of position. Anyway, the Training 101 will cover all of that so that you're kind of really ready. So we're not covering any basics during the live workshop. You kind of got all of those basics there. And then in the live session, we're going to actually focus on putting the focus on cue in distracting situations. So we'll work on barking, noises, so you can I'll play those on YouTube so that you can hear, or so your dog can hear some of those noises, and you can lower or increase your volume as needed depending on what your dog can handle. We'll talk about when the mailman is about to come, because obviously I can't mimic that. But we'll talk about what to do there, and then we'll talk about how to slowly work with a dog that wants to pull towards another dog, whether it's out of excitement or reactivity. And just to mention, this is not like a comprehensive reactivity course, but it is kind of, if you have these basics, at least you have that foundation so that when you do start to work on reactivity, you have better results because you are, delivering the treat properly. You have the right timing. When your dog is staying under threshold. And once again, since it's live, I can give you direct feedback, but I did mention, it is guaranteed to the first 10 participants, so I will try to get to as many people as I can. The live workshop is going to be 90 minutes, so I would think that I could get to everyone, but of course, I just want to put that guarantee cap of 10 people. Okay. And then, so it's for the next 48 hours that I'm also offering this bonus as well. So if you enroll in the next 48 hours, you'll also get access to my upcoming online course that I'm currently creating right now, which is going to be released on March 15th, and it's called Focus Anywhere, Anytime. And that workshop is also going to cover a lot of the stuff as well. But you'll also have even more tools that you can do to get your dog or puppy to focus. And then there's a private paid course Facebook group as well. Next slide. And then I also do want to mention too, so if you're someone that feels like you need like more personal one-on-one help, I do offer one-on-one virtual sessions. I love virtual sessions because when I do one-on-one sessions, a lot of people say that their dog acts differently when I'm around, or they suddenly act really good, or maybe I'm already a really big distraction for them. So one-on-one virtual sessions allow for me to train you and your dog in an environment that they're used to without me actually being there. And so those are $110 for the initial session, and then the follow-up sessions are 30 minutes for $50. So if you ever wanted to do more one-on-one stuff, then I always have that option as well. But for those who want to save a little bit of money, I do have this bundle for only $97. So what I just talked about, for the next 48 hours, you'll get the 90-minute live session that's on February 28th at 3:30 p.m. So that's kind of like getting that one-on-one virtual session, except there could be other people there as well, or there will be other people there as well, but depending on how many people sign up, there may be more, there may be less. And then you'll get the Training 101 course, and then you'll also get, on March 15th, lifetime access to the Focus Anywhere, Anytime online course. So I think this is a really good deal, but of course I have both options because some people do prefer to have more of that one-on-one help. And then some people, I like to offer like different things so people can save money also. So link to join is in, it says chat box, but it's in the description of this video. And I hope to see you guys there. So if you have any questions about focus training or just anything in general, leave me a comment, let me know, and I will try to get back to you as soon as I can. And yep, I will see you guys. And I'm going to start going live in my Facebook group that this is streaming in right now. Every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Mountain Time, which is 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Time. I'm kind of bad at math, but yes, I think that's right. So join me, and every week is going to be a little bit different. So next week I am doing a Q&A. So if you have questions, you can ask me. And like I said, every week will be a little bit different. Some of them will be more of these like full presentation, interactive workshops, and then others will be more simple, like just ask your questions, things like that. So yeah, I will see you guys later. Bye.